on in the hall.
Gallery. All right, we're not going to fuss with this. It should have pinned the video for our camera. There we go. Now we got it. Now where'd Melissa go?
She's just taking care of a few administrative items before we start.
Oh, wow, we got
Like, she's turning on the lights.
Yes, the lights were off.
She's closing the other door.
You guys ready to roll?
And Chris can hear us.
I should be able to get this now to change the view to speaker.
She's all good.
I see the speaker. I don't know what they see.
So if you see me texting in the meeting, it's because I'm talking to Chris,
I don't know
who's
what they go. I'm not going
helping do our meeting minutes this evening.
Got it. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of Hinckley Township to order. It is October 5th. The time is 6:32 p.m. Can I have the roll call, please?
Kalina?
Here.
Augustine?
Here.
Burns?
Here. Can everybody stand to salute the flag, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody, for coming this evening. Hopefully everything's working in the virtual world. We have our normal proctors not running the show, so we're going to try to manage this here in the room. On the agenda this evening, we have to make a motion to approve the minutes of September 21st, 2021. Do I hear a second?
Do you want to do the special minutes with it? From the
924.
And the special ed, I'd like to amend that and make a motion to also approve the 924 special meeting minutes.
Second as amended.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll sign that when you get a chance.
Thank you.
This evening we have a special guest, Mr. Charles Gibson. Mr. Gibson, if you'd like to take the podium.
Welcome, Mr.
Up there.
Gibson.
Mr. Sentner, can you see if that light's red on his microphone, please? If it is, push the button right in the middle of that. Is there red? Make it green. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me?
Now?
Well, we can hear you.
Perfect.
Thank you. Chief off there.
Can everyone else hear me? I'm going to talk that direction, but
That's fine.
it sounds okay? Okay. Well, for the trustees, I handed out that the land review donation letter. I assume you've all got it?
Yes.
Okay, because I'll follow that agenda pretty much. Basically, there are issues for the discussion, and there are some resolutions that we need to do on the fact that I am offering 22 acres to be donated to the Hinckley Township. In discussing this with several attorneys, they have indicated that there are some things that need to be accepted by the township in this regard. The first one is basically assigning a responsibility to at least one trustee at the township to take on the fact that this is property now that is in your domain, you will own it. And you've got a person who really has land responsibility, property responsibility. I assume that would probably be the person that you would end up assigning this to, or making them, what would term them, responsible for accepting the donation of land. Is that seemingly not a problem at all, hopefully?
No, let's discuss that real quick. Maybe by bulleting these, we can discuss them and then move on to the next bullet. Is that okay?
That's what I'm planning to do.
Okay.
I've hit the first one.
So trustees, do you think this would fall under the purview of our service department?
No,
It would
No?
be Board of Trustees.
you need to have it the Board of Trustees, not one individual, but the Board.
Okay, so you're basically accepting them for all three.
Yes. Well, not necessarily these three individuals, but in perpetuity, the three-person Board of Trustees.
Okay, that seemed like not a problem at all.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The agreement on minor maintenance of the property. The fact that I am asking this and donating this, and there is a caveat in there that I'm asking for because of the deductibility that I want for taxes.
Mhm.
There is some responsibility, I think, for, call it minor maintenance. This property, I assume, will be left prime vacant. In that case, the only thing you're really going to have to worry about is vine control, because if you don't do vine control, you'll kill the trees. Eventually, they will bring the trees down. So you need to do that probably about every 5 to 6 years. I have done that. The person actually is finishing up this year with it, and so it should be another 5 years before that would have to happen. That's not a very expensive process. Property inspection, it's done yearly by the Western Reserve Land Conservancy because this is a conserved piece of property, 22 acres. And as a result, they do an inspection to make sure that there's no erosion from any of the property owners around it, like building a garden or a shed or something on that. And the property owners around there know pretty much that they really are not supposed to do that. So we really haven't had a problem, but they will inspect the property usually in the fall. I would assume that if you went around with them, that would end up being then probably a acceptance as far as knowing, walking the property, understanding what it is and so forth.
That's a couple hour process.
Yes,
Take a day.
yes,
Right?
yes.
It is. I have done that with the Western Reserve Land Conservancy, and it's an enjoyable process.
Yeah, I mean, you got the chance to see your property and
Right.
making sure that it's still prime and no intrusions.
They're very knowledgeable as well as
Yeah,
they're
yes.
walking around the land.
I'm coming to the meeting tomorrow. Andy McDowell will be there to be able to give a little background. There's some curious wording that they're using right now, and I'm not sure. They sound like they're accepting land. And I think their prime reason for existence is to preserve land. They really don't want land to have to think about selling. They want to preserve land, get you to put a conservation easement on your property, but they want you to continue to own it or arrange to have someone else own it if you want to sell it. But you can sell it.
Are the trustees in agreement with item number 2 and taking care of the land, buying control?
I don't see any issues with
Yes.
that. I mean, that's minor.
One other item on that, and in the future, if in fact it was to be used as a mini park, if in fact that would be a possibility, I think you'd have to do some maintenance then because you might have a parking area, you might put in trails, and you just have to check and see on that regard. So, but that is a future thing that I'm not putting any restrictions on the land that said you really need to turn this thing into a park eventually. No, you do what you want to with it. I don't, and we'll get down to the donation agreement, but I wouldn't put any stipulations in there that said, here's what you ought to do with future use.
Thank you.
Yep.
And thank you for providing us that latitude in the future.
Yeah, really, yes. All right. The next bullet on there is having the township agree to abide by the existing land conservancy agreement that is with Western Reserve Land Conservancy Organization. I didn't provide you with that document, but it's something that you can find out directly what it is, what it says, what you need to do. Basically, the 1-year inspection is pretty much what they want, and that you can never build on it. So,
That's something we'll need a copy of.
yes,
Pretty soon.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
But it's pretty much, you will abide by the existing land conservancy agreement. And if you have some questions, Andy tomorrow would be the person to pose this to see, is there anything special? We did not put any special requirements in our agreement.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Signage. I think it ought to recognize that there is a conservation easement on it, and the Western Reserve has a sign there right now. But it would probably be good if there's wordage on there to that effect that it's recognizing that there is. And I'm indicating the donation gift would come from 2 families. My wife's family is the one that bought the property probably around the early 20s. I don't have an exact date. Emma at the recorder's office is checking for me to find out that may be very close to applying for a 100-year farm, which the Ohio State would recognize if in fact it can be documented that it was purchased by the one family, meaning that the names can change, but it's owned by one entity, which would be. And so I would like to put my wife's maiden name, which was Devoki, on the recognition also. And then, and I'm throwing only out a possible name. This could be something that you could actually have as an experiment to find out what people thought about if they wanted to do any kind of naming. I just threw out Hinckley Hills Reserve. I kind of like the idea we're in the hills, so Hinckley Hills is all right. But I'm not telling you that's what it has to be. So you can do that.
Understood. We will work with you on the signage.
Okay,
Okay.
Right.
You can help us draft it, model it size
Okay.
wise, and then
Yep.
we'll talk about how to
Fine.
pay for it.
but it's a case that it ought to reflect the two families, the one who bought it in the early 1920s and then myself.
All in agreement?
I wouldn't be able to donate it if they didn't get it. So as a result, and then I married into it. So that's how that worked.
Trustees are in agreement with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Now, I've mentioned here the actual donation agreement will be created by my estate attorney. I have talked to several attorneys, and they're indicating that perhaps the donee might be the one that want to work the agreement and then have us, my attorney, review it, as opposed to me creating it. I would think that's an open item for discussion as to whether you would want your attorney to really work the document to make sure you're comfortable and then have us review it rather than me working it not backwards, but working it. I'll open that up for whether you have an opinion on that.
Let me ask you, you were working with Mike Lyons at one time?
Yes.
Are you still working with him?
Yes. I've worked with several. I've actually worked with Jeff Holland, who is the legal advisor for the Western Reserve Land Conservancy. He was the one that helped me set this up back in 2009. That's when I established the conservancy with the Western Reserve. They actually developed it then. Jeff Holland also knows Mike. Mike knows Jeff. And then my own estate attorney. So I've got some legal advice going on here that.
What did Mr. Lyons give you as far as maybe him providing the direction for the trustee, the township becoming the drafter of this transfer document?
He said it's 50-50 because I asked him that question not more than about 2 or 3 hours ago. What do you think would be the best thing, looking at it from a standpoint of either the township or myself?
Yeah, technically, we have one more trustee meeting this month before he is dumping down a paragraph before he'd like to make this happen.
If it has to happen a little bit later, I can go along with that. Meaning, maybe I'm pushing the envelope to try and get it done by 11.
I guess I'm thinking out loud for the trustees to discuss. We do have a few samples from the, if you remember, a month and a half ago or so, I found other townships that did something similar. Those could be sample draft documents to start with. What do you think about that as opposed to, Mr. Gibson drafting a document and us going through an edit mode with our prosecutor?
I think he's already donating a beautiful piece of property that we're extremely grateful for, and we don't want him to encumber any more funds. If we can do it
That's
through the
fine.
prosecutor's office, I think that would be ideal.
So you're
We have to
indicating,
start from somewhere, so.
That's what I think we'd start
Yeah,
with.
here's the template.
So I'll contact Mr. Richter with the trustee's approval,
Mhm.
take some of those documents that we have that are of similar nature, build from there. Maybe before we go to Mr. Richter, we draft one to you, and then you can immediately red flag, no, I don't like this, okay?
that'd be fine.
We'll try to accelerate this so the November 1st date's a target, and maybe
Okay.
if not the first, in the middle of November, we can.
Correct. That's fine.
I'm familiar with this. That would work.
I would think
probably with him.
so too.
I've got some examples right now of them that I got, and I did enough research on this to find out that yes, the township is an entity that I can get as far as then making a deduction through income tax, because there is an example over in Richfield.
Yep.
And Mike Lyons at one time was the mayor of Richfield. And so there is an example, and he sent me some copies of things that they did with some property that they accepted. And the person then was able to use it as a donation.
If I may get with you sometime in the near future,
That's fine.
share that. That'd be
Certainly.
The more documents I have, the better we can build
Yes.
something quicker.
I'll give you whatever I've got there.
This is almost boilerplate. We just don't have the boilerplate to start with.
No, that's fine.
Thank
And your prosecuting attorney, I have a feeling he's got some background on this
He
too.
does.
So that's
I
going to
think
work.
was it Eastwood Preserve that he worked on?
No, it was actually a different piece of property on the corner of Hawkins and Broadview.
Okay.
And
I know where that
so
is.
now I've got an appraiser who's done the appraisal of the property.
Mhm.
That's something that is going to be a part of me showing it to you, you giving I'm going to use the term agreement. You don't have to approve it but it does give you an idea of the value of what you're getting. And that needs to be signed by you for me to have that as a documentation that I can use with the IRS.
Okay.
That's all. So, but it will be, I have an outside appraiser who actually, by the way, did the appraisal when I set the conservation easement up. He did it. He's now gone and done it again.
Okay, so when you present that to us, bring it to a public meeting.
Yes,
disclose it,
yes, I can show that.
And go from there. Thank you.
Correct, yes.
That's good.
Now, that was one. The property that I have is all under CAUV status.
Mhm.
You're going to want to maintain that because now I've realized that the township doesn't pay taxes.
Well,
So,
we
but
do.
you do
So
on,
we have to go through a process.
that's true because this is now property that isn't part of,
So we will have to pay taxes
Yeah,
on this
on that.
property.
so you will want to keep CAUV as an option to use because it does significantly lower your taxes. Would you qualify for CAUV? I would think you would.
I'm not sure how that works with transfer of ownership.
It has to be over 10 acres and we're looking at
Again,
22.
We have to have a reasonable CAUV application.
I mean,
Again, I'm not quite sure if it's transferred upon ownership without us going through.
no, even when there's a name change,
Yeah.
when my wife passed away and it went from a dual ownership to a single ownership, they said, you're out of the program, come back in and reapply and you can get back in. And now I had to do that. So they are tight on changes of ownership. They really are.
I'll do what I can to find out what we have to do to
Yeah.
maintain that.
Right.
Because you
That's,
have
yeah,
to
that's,
account for those property taxes.
yeah.
For that.
Right, I'm sure it's probably under forestry right now.
That's correct. I have
There's a potential recapture, Trustee
Yes,
Burns,
that's
that
going to
we'd
be
have to
the
be,
issue.
that we'd have to have some information on regarding the CAUV because they want those back years recaptured if it comes out of the CAUV.
Right.
So I think you need to have those numbers in place before you authorize anything, really, so you can plan accordingly.
Okay.
All right. The last item I had here was basically there is going to need to be, again, my attorney's saying this, there needs to be a resolution by the township to accept the donation. And I have a feeling that was not something that you would find as a surprise. You'd want to go ahead and make a resolution to do this. That way it's in public record that you did accept it through getting a vote and a resolution in the township. So,
And that's down the road.
yep. That's all the pieces that I had in here as far as review. I'm pleased to be able to do this. And I had obviously the Metro Parks was your kind of a competitor. And there's even another conservancy that will accept land. It's called West Creek Conservancy. And they would be interested in it, but I feel kind of warm to having it in the township. And if that can happen and all the other factors exist that will be able to allow me to do this, I'd like to do it.
We're so pleased. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Yep.
Yes, and you certainly haven't taken the easy way with this because I know we've been talking to you for quite some time about this. And it's taken a lot of research to get to this point.
It has, I could have pushed it maybe a little bit more, but the point is that I was kind of tied up in some project also, and having a barn fire tends to get you sidetracked otherwise, but I would have liked to maybe get it done in September, but this is going to be fine. I'd like to get it done yet this year. And that's sort of
We
the
work
goal.
that end as well.
Yep.
On our end. Okay.
Mr. Gibson, is the property in one parcel?
Yes, I have a parcel number. If you'd like to have the parcel number,
Yeah, at some point, can you give me that parcel number?
I'll give it to you tonight.
Look at
I have it, yes. So I will do that. Yeah, I purposely did that. I actually separated it so that those 22 acres actually have a separate parcel number.
Thank you.
That'll make things a lot
Yep.
easier.
In fact, the rest of the property I have, which is about 43 acres, I am going, I feel strongly about not making the character of the community be still rural in character. And as a result, I want to have lots that are rather large. So I'm looking at maybe splitting up the rest of what I have into 4 or 5 acre parcels, and then there'll be house sites. And doing this with a 22 acres, it had conservation easement on it, which means it might be a little hard to push it, to sell it to somebody when they can't develop it. And if I passed away, my niece, who was my administrator, would have a hard time getting the estate closed when they're trying to sell this acreage.
Right.
So this to me is a win-win for a lot of people. And you folks should be a benefactor here in Hinckley. So if you're agreeable and everything is met and we can agree on things, I think we've made it happen, can make it happen.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks for coming in.
Sure.
Thank you.
Right.
We'll be in touch and vice versa. We need some things from you.
I'll be available.
You're welcome to stay if you want to.
I think I made it.
Okay, very good. We're going to turn then now to Police Department. Chief, how are you?
Great, how are you?
I'm good. What do you have on your docket? Nothing?
There's nothing that's
anything.
on the agenda. I provided the board with the third quarter, quarterly report for the third quarter, as well as the 2020 annual numbers are attached to that as well. Just something a little bit interesting. The third quarter, we had 4,845 calls, and the definition of a call is rather big and open. It's everything that we do.
Right.
We're actually down from 2020 at this point. All of 2020, we had a little over 22,000 calls for the police department. And again, those cover everything that we do, from vacation watches, traffic stops, calls for service, business checks, everything that we do. So we're down a little bit, which is kind of a good thing. Right now, as we ended the third quarter, we were at a little over 16,000 calls for the year. So part of that I attribute to, we were down a couple officers since the spring. We just recently hired Patrolman Ghetto, who's doing absolutely fantastic, by the way. I think I shared an email with the board that from one of our residents, or a potential resident, that had some interaction with Jake. So we did really well hiring him. I'm pretty happy with it. So there's nothing really, that when you get a chance to go over all of this, there's really nothing that stands out that's alarming. A lot of these calls stay pretty consistent from quarter to quarter, year to year. And again, our numbers, I think, are down a little bit, with traffic stops and so forth, because we were down a couple of officers. But that's what I have for you this evening.
Thank you very much. Glad it was not so.
And Sergeant Schroll is feeling better. I think he's turned the corner. And I hope to have him back sometime next week.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Doing his work and mine too.
He was navigating how to print
Pulling
these
my hair out
without
a little bit the
Sergeant
last few
Schroll.
weeks, but he is feeling better.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And I'm going to let you go after this. Does anyone from the audience have a question for Chief Stettner before he leaves?
Nice to see everybody.
Thank you so much, Chief. I appreciate it.
I want to jump real quick. Before you leave, on 10/26, we're shutting down the internet in the evening,
Okay, right? And talk
unless
about
we have an objection from you. That's a Thursday.
it. No,
I
I
think.
think the only
It's
thing
not
that
a
I
Monday.
requested was if we did it after business hours.
It is.
That, makes it a little easier
Yeah, it
for
is.
us, but
It is.
that's fine.
Okay,
It does not keep us from,
that's a
our
Tuesday.
MDTs out in the cars are still up and running because those are on a different,
Yeah,
system.
it should only be for a few hours. In
Not a
case
problem. Thank you for the update on
Yep.
that. Real quick, I do have, we will be here for the 23rd for trick or treat.
Very good.
Patrolman Gabriel and our auxiliary officer Ed Gold will be here along with the staff and myself. So that's covered. I know Thursday, the Highland Foundation's having their kickoff for the fall dinner. They will be here for that, making sure that everybody moving back and forth from the park to Foster's and Hoppy's is safe.
There's a couple different markers I noticed driving through town.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that.
So I will be around as well. So
Very good.
Thank you.
We also have a zoning commission meeting that night, so it'll be busy.
You be safe.
we will. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you,
Have a
Chief.
good evening, folks.
Right.
Chief Grossenbaugh is traveling this evening, so I'm going to give him a call so that he can present. And I asked him if he's ready, but I haven't heard back from him. Technology. And he's not answering.
Are you able to present, Melissa?
I can present on his behalf. He had asked me if he could present, but that is fine. So I'm going to go right into it. The first is a request for appropriations to repair fire suppression sprinkler system from SA Communal at a cost of $968. I don't have that in front of me. Do
Neither
either
do
of you?
I don't have it either.
Ah, there it is. Okay.
Is this something that's an emergency we have to worry about?
It's for the sprinkler system. They have had an issue with it secondary to the poor water conditions there. And because we don't have that document in front of us, I'm afraid we're going to have to table it. So we'll put it on hold to the next meeting unless Chief calls me at some point during this meeting.
Okay.
At this time, I would like to make a motion to accept the resignation letter from Cody Bennett. As you might recall, Cody had asked for a year off secondary to a new job that would not allow him to work both the part-time job here and the full-time job that he would just received. We can only give him a 3-month leave of absence.
Right.
So he has sent his resignation letter in, and I'm sad to see him go because he is a Hinckley resident as well. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I will second that. And when we send his letter, I hope that we'll express that we would love to have the opportunity to swear him back in at some point in the future when he's able to accommodate that within his new schedule.
I will make sure I notate that. Thank you.
Yeah, this is just a technicality of our
It is.
policy, so.
It is.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Very good.
Thank you, Cody, if you're listening. I don't think you are, but thank you.
Thank you. Yes, for all of your service to Hinckley Fire. And we have the quarterly report here in front of you. And I'm telling you what, I just had a birthday. My close vision is going. So bear with me, guys. Just a really quick recap of July, August, and September. Total incidences year to date is 564 for this year. We're in 2020. We were at 488. Average emergency response time is 8 minutes and 14 seconds. Overlapping calls is 27. That's really important because we do have mutual aid services that help us from Brunswick Hills, Brunswick, and Granger. And if there's an overlap, that's important for us to notate. Mutual aid given is about 18. Mutual aid received is 6. It's got all the EMS transports breakdowns for you guys, whether they went to Southwest General or Parma or refused service. And so I think that's a pretty good recap. Training hours at this point is 433.30. Gabe has been very busy doing inspections. He's at 25 for this quarter. And this is a really important for our public to know that we only have 2-man staffing at Hinckley Fire. And the calls received in this quarter that have required a 3rd man has been 52 calls. And lastly, 14 calls into the station. And Chief Grossenbach has said this time and time again, if you have an emergency, please call 911. If you call into the station and our guys are out on a call and gals are out on a call, they cannot answer the phone. So please call 911. 14 calls is pretty high for this quarter. And that's our recap for the quarter for fire. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bahari's not here. He has an excused absence today, so we just pushed items down under me. I'll just wait until then to get to him. Mr. Clean, I think you would have to talk about zoning.
Yeah, we have quite a few items actually this evening. The first one is we have some lot splits, some Mylars to sign, and some applications, which we can do this after the meeting. The first one is a split that is basically creating a back lot. And this runs from Ridge Road to Kellogg Road. And so it's a legal back lot. It's one parcel of property right now that runs all the way from Ridge to Kellogg. And it doesn't have a lot of frontage on either end, actually. The acreage is more in the center. But they are breaking off a 7-acre parcel on the Kellogg side, and it meets all the requirements of a back lot. So it's
okay.
Very good.
And then the next one is we have a very, very minor split and combination, and that is literally, it just has to do with the sewer easement, and it's honest to God, I don't see the number on here, but I reviewed it with Tom. It's 10 square feet. I mean, it's or maybe it's not 10 square feet. It's a really tiny little. It's just a little triangle of property that they have to combine with an existing easement. So we have that one. And then the next one is
It's a little
for,
tiny triangle.
it's a little teeny tiny triangle. Yeah, literally, it's like 10 by 9, but it's in a triangle. So they're changing it because of the sanitary sewer easement
Yes.
that's on that parcel. And the next one is actually a correction to what we had approved at the last meeting. And this is regarding the Caddyshack parking, split off of that parcel. And they had included some property that's actually owned by the state of Ohio.
Oh.
And so they have corrected that. And that is now in front of us for this evening
Okay.
to sign and approve. But
Lot of
Tom and I looked at that as well. And that was it sounds like that was a correction that was found after they submitted it,
Okay.
so that they can't split off the state of Ohio's property.
Minor technicality.
An exciting piece of news, literally today.
I'm waiting.
Are you waiting?
I'm waiting.
The Costco trailer is gone.
Oh, good.
Which Costco trailer?
Does everybody know the Costco? Okay, if you drive down West 130th Street, you know where the Costco trailer is at. It's been there for a long time. It's been an eyesore. It's one of the areas of blight, you could say, within the township that we focused on for quite a while, and it's no longer in Hinckley.
I have
So
a
that's
lot of people to call about that. That is
There you go.
wonderful news.
so.
Thank you.
Congratulations to Tom and Tom
Yes.
for working on that. Both our zoning inspector and our assistant zoning inspector for not giving up on that one, because that's been going on for quite some time.
I think it's.
And then it had an advertisement on it.
Yeah.
Remember?
I think it's an understatement, and the public needs to know the tediousness required by the township to get things like that removed from the township. There's a
Yes.
process. It's
It's a long
methodical,
process.
It's
It really
bureaucratic.
is. It's a long
and
process.
thank you
Multiple
for the
letters,
stick-to-itiveness.
multiple visits to the
Yes.
individual that owned that.
It
and-
doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen even in a month.
No.
Thank you very much, Tom.
I think it's been over 6 months that we've been discussing that.
Oh, it's been
Costco
over
trailer.
6 months. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, that's been there for a little while, and it's not there. So if anybody happens to drive that way, which you really can't, because every road is closed anymore, so you can't get anywhere if you go down that. Well, I think you can. I think
can
you
go
can
down
get.
there.
You can get.
Yeah.
Out. You just can't hang
You
a
just
left right
can't,
now.
yeah, you
because
just
that
can't
part-
leave there.
That part is so. Right. I've been taking
Right.
71 to get from one side of the township to the other. Honestly,
It's not
I've jumped
terrible. It's so terrible.
to go back and forth. And the zoning amendments that were passed in September, Suzanne and I are working on those together and just verifying all of the language, which is a lot of work to go through every single line, because there's a lot of lines to change. Whenever you change one thing, it impacts multiple pages
Right.
moving down. So going through those, and so.
And our
that's my
deadline date for
homework.
that is November 1st.
Well,
Our effective date. we had said.
that was the date we set. However, we will not supersede the Ohio Revised Code, which says 30 days. So we're going to make sure that we are following that, which would technically be the 7th. So,
Okay.
so that's why I'm
Great.
reviewing that with Suzanne. She has it prepared, and we'll make sure that everything's correct before it actually gets officially filed. So just to let you know that those things are moving forward.
Very good.
Thank you.
And that's what I have under zoning right now.
Great.
Very good.
There's nothing under cemetery, so we're going to come right back to you.
That's what I thought.
Unless you want a break.
Oh,
So-
we have a question from the audience.
I do.
Yes.
Hi. Can we see?
You're going to step to the
Oh, I
podium
do.
because the people in TV land cannot hear you.
TV land.
And we have several out there. Thank you.
Okay. Hi,
By yourself, name and address.
my name is Nancy Mandalakis. I live at 1291 Stony Hill Drive in Hinckley. Can we see the property the first property you talked about Kellogg and Ridge?
Yeah.
And is that on a map and we can see that?
You can actually just step right up here,
Yeah,
Nancy.
I'm happy to share it with anybody. So it's literally just this little bit, and then there's a 15-acre parcel that's here, and there's a 7-acre parcel that's back here. So it's mainly backland here. So there's a little bit of frontage coming off of Kellogg, and there's a little bit of frontage coming off of Ridge.
So you're making the cut in the middle?
All it is cutting. Yeah, this property exists as is right now. It's just this split.
Okay, great.
Does anyone else want to see it while we have it up?
I'm gonna zoom the camera in on it. Put it on a split screen. If just give me a parcel number and put it up on the screen.
I don't.
Be good.
As much technology as we have, and we're still holding it up.
Yeah, because it's an existing lot. They're just splitting it right now.
We were able to.
Happy to share.
Trustee Cleon, you weren't probably present at the time, but we were able to up there, put maps up there and
Zoom in. Yeah, I did that at a couple of the zoning
share
meetings,
too,
actually.
Sharing doesn't
I was able to
always work
zoom
when you
in.
want it to as quickly as you want, so.
Right.
All right. So you do remember.
The comprehensive plan grant, I was hoping that was going to be heard this week, but the commissioners, as of this afternoon, canceled their meeting, and they're now not meeting until October 12th. So that has a slight delay. Kabbalah Farms will not be heard by anybody until November. That was also delayed.
Okay.
And the blighted property update, I did mention the Costco trailer, but the property that we had voted on, Mr. Richter, last month regarding the title search and trying to get that cleaned up on River Road. The prosecutor's office is involved with that, and they're aware we took that action and continuing to assist us with that. Regarding Tire Max, they did file an appeal that was recently received by the township, and there's been no date or other information set at this point regarding that. I will note, just as a side note for our residents, that I did read an article that was in the Gazette today. I was not questioned by the journalist who wrote this.
New journalist,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so she didn't reach out to me for any comments regarding this, but my thoughts on reading this was that we've had a tremendous amount of activity regarding the conservation developments. And I just want the residents to know that, I was very pleased to work with the Zoning Commission in 2018 as a member of the commission when the changes to the language for those subdivisions was first enacted. And there was a couple of major changes that took place in 2018. Probably the biggest one was the addition of language for the yield plan. And what the yield plan language really does for developers is it, in my opinion, it levels the playing field between a standard 2-acre large lot subdivision and a conservation development subdivision. Because what the developer has to now do is they would have to submit a regular 2-acre site plan to the township and submit their conservation plan to the township. And they could not, in fact, build or plat, if you will, or propose more homes in the conservation development than they could in the standard 2-acre subdivision. And so I was very proud to be part of the zoning commission at that point in time in 2018 that helped to draft that language and put that into resolution. And since that point in time in 2018, so I've almost been involved for the past 4 years, we have not had any requests for conservation developments at all. We haven't received any. Nobody's called us about those. Now, that doesn't in any way, shape, or form mean that there's not one down the road. And that is why the Zoning Commission and the Board of Trustees took the action to triple the setback from the existing road right-of-way and double the setback around the perimeter. But I do want people to understand that we have not had any interests at all, at least during the 4 years I've been involved with Hinckley Township, in those subdivisions. So just wanted to share that with everybody. And
Knock on wood.
You're right. Knock on wood. So that's what I had for zone.
Thank you.
I'm going to steamroll right into the
I
next.
think you're up.
And as I told you guys privately before the meeting, I had Kimball vacant property internal adaptation discussion on the agenda, but we have actually handled that internally. So I'm not going to be discussing that tonight. I'm going to jump right to the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. And I want to assure everyone that we had a tentative list that I had just kind of compiled based on interest from people who had expressed interest in being on the steering committee initially back, I think in March or April. And honestly, it was March. And that list is not significant to us anymore. I had kept it in hopes that we would utilize it in some way. I just didn't know what way, and I was kind of planning ahead. Now that we have the steering committee application out for every citizen, that list has gone to the wayside. So if you have given me your name to be on that list, I'm asking you now to please fill out the application like everyone else. It came in the Hinckley record, so every single person should have gotten that in the Hinckley record on October 1st. Additionally, we have it online on the website. We have it in two forms, thanks to Jim. I appreciate that suggestion. We have just a regular PDF of it, but we also have a fillable PDF. So you could just type in your information and email it to me. I will be the primary contact for it. So I've been getting them in the mail and also via email. Feel free to scan it if you fill it out by hand, however works best for you, but I will be accepting those until October 15th. I would like to talk briefly, if we could, about how we're going to handle those once they come in. Our next meeting is the 19th. So once the 19th comes, how do we want to go about handling those applications once we've had them all here in Hinckley Town Hall? Do we want to have an executive session and go through them personally? Do we want to go through them publicly? Do we want to have a third party come in and look at each one of them and determine that we have a diverse group? How would you?
Well, I'd like to first off just answer some questions that I've heard just in the community about some of the questions that were asked within the application. And when anybody is working with a data instrument, a survey instrument, a questionnaire, whatever you want to call it, demographics are typically part of that. And the reason that you ask demographic information is because you're trying to find out a little bit of additional information about the individual that's completing that questionnaire, background characteristics from the individual. And that's pretty standard within questionnaires. The other part is we did ask for people's opinions. And the reason that we asked for individuals' opinions on certain areas is because what the board is trying to better understand is where the applicant fits within the general population of Hinckley Township. And the reason that we want to find out where the applicant fits within the general population is because what we ultimately have to do with all of this data that's going to be received from individuals is we have to figure out from the overall population of the township where individuals fit into subgroups, because we're going to have different subgroups of individuals. And I can just tell you like one of them. So a demographic question is, what is your age? I mean, that's a typical demographic question that everybody answers on any kind of survey. We're going to have lots of souvenirs.
We have a lot of souvenirs right in my office.
But a question that I think that we could use to help, divvy these up a little bit, to have an even representation. And remember, what we're really talking about here is the steering committee. That's what this application is for. This is for the steering committee. Everybody in the township is going to have the opportunity to participate in the process. Every resident is going to have the opportunity to have their voices heard, their opinions listened to, and taken into consideration. This is a steering committee. So from the steering committee standpoint, we need, and in my conversations with Arthur Schmidt from OHM, who's ultimately going to be handling this for us and working with the committee and helping to steer things along with them, he had said you want to make sure that your committee is fair and balanced. Well, how do we do that without knowing a little bit of background information about where people's opinions are? Because we do want it to be a fair and balanced reputation of the community. And we all know just from this newspaper article that was on the front page of the paper today that obviously there's some differing opinions. Oh, it's front page.
I did not know that.
There you go. Read that. You can read that. That's on the front page. So, well, we know there's some differing opinions within the township. And some of these questions were worded just like the one question says, which position do you support? Would you rather, if you're talking about 2-acre lots, would you rather increase lot sizes, decrease lot sizes. I don't think we'll get a lot of those, but you never know. But we asked the
That's what it is,
question,
actually.
but we didn't say, do you want 5-acre lots? It's just, do you want to increase lot sizes? And there's going to be some people that do, and there's going to be some people that want to maintain the present policy. We know that to me almost seems like that's the litmus test right there. So you want to have an even representation. You don't want a whole committee of people that are on one side of that, because the people that are on one side of that obviously wouldn't want a whole committee of people from the other side of that. So, this is how we're going to get there. Now, how we make some of those decisions, I think that is, that's going to be a little bit more the tougher part for the board to decide how we want to move forward with that. Personally, I think we could remove names from this. We could even initially remove addresses from it as well, and just try to create some subgroups based on some of the answers to the key questions within the document. And then we could go back and look at the address at a second kind of review to ensure that we're getting equal representation across the township, because obviously, we want somebody from Crestview, we want somebody from your
All corners.
Lake Crest Boulevard, right? Your neighborhood. We want somebody from Parker Road. We want somebody from our, my subdivision, hopefully, and we just want some even representation around the township. And I don't know, we'll not necessarily hit all 4 quadrants, but we should be able to.
I hope that we'd have more than 4 quadrants. I was hoping that we'd use, in reversing that, using the quantitative method of divide the township into 12 or 15 squares equal, and put the people in those squares. And if there's multiples in this one square, you look at the demographics of that group, and then you look and that calls out, and let's say we have 50 applicants. That's a lot to go through. That matrix helps us cut that back a lot. And then we look and see, okay, you've got a distribution of people representing all the corners, all the sections of Hinckley, the rural, the suburban, the sidewalk subdivisions, the farmers, all that. This is going to be difficult. How we're going to do it,
It's going to be difficult.
To do it in a public session is going to be really challenging.
It's not, how are you determining its executive session topic?
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either.
And so I'm wondering if it's not better to appoint one trustee to do the initial coagulation of answers, trying to group them.
That would be me.
If you want, yeah, and I'm not going to call you if you.
Well, I'm
I
already-
second the
I'm-
motion.
yeah, I'm
All
on
in
the
favor,
committee.
say aye.
On the committee.
No, because it's going to be really tough for the 3 of us to do that in a public session. It's going to take hours going through this, and then bring it together. Then we can independently review the information that's been pulled together, and then come back in a public session to discuss what we see.
And I would like to get other eyes on it too. I would like to see Suzanne's eyes, Tom Wilson's eyes, people who just have different experiences and different ideology. A lot of the questions that I'm getting are, what does this committee look like? Well, the committee really is in charge of facilitating civil engagement. What does that look like to the committee? Is it through surveys? Is it through meetings? Is it through both? There's a variety of methods that can be utilized during this process. But the idea is to keep the committee small. And that was another comment that was on Facebook today. Why can't we have 30 people on the committee? Well, because then you start getting people that are clashing ideas, and we need to work together collaboratively. So a smaller committee is going to benefit the township and be just a lot more efficient. So what I'll do is I'll collect all of these. I will go through them initially. I will transfer them then to you, and we'll have further conversation after some of the other staff members that know zoning inside and out here can look at them as well. Sound like a good overall recap?
I think this for a start, yeah.
Okay.
Let's just pull the data together as best we can, come back to a public meeting. What do we see? Maybe we have to go through another round of, another iteration of grouping.
Right.
And
I think it's going to come together. I mean, I
I'm
think
not
I think it's going to come together, and I think we'll have, I saw you had a nice stack in your
I was just going to
mailbox
say that.
today. So
I was
people
excited to
are-
see more.
People are interested in serving their community and participating. These are obviously, highly paid positions that are, you get, no money for, but, but having a say in what the future I've always said zoning is the one thing that, has the longest impact on the community. And so, there's a lot of people that care about what the township looks like, what the long-term goals and visions are for the community. And so having that input from the residents, I'm really looking forward to it.
Very good. Me
Okay.
I as
So
well.
thank you for
Until the 15th, and then you
for
can,
getting that started,
Let us
Melissa.
know what you
Appreciate that.
thanks for volunteering.
Yes. High paying position. We talked about that.
We did.
So moving on, we've got senior snowplow contractor that is needed.
Still,
We had a contractor for the senior snowplow. And for those of you who aren't aware of what that program is, it's about 32 seniors in our township who need help plowing their driveways. And it's facilitated through the Hinckley Firemen's Association. And we had a contractor that decided he would not be able to facilitate it this year. We are looking for new contractors. I have made at least 15 phone calls to contractors that have said, can't do it, already booked, my machinery is too big for personal driveways. So if someone knows a contractor that would be willing to help us with this project, please let me know. I have a trustee tea on Saturday, October 16th here at Town Hall at 10 a.m. I held one in April. I wanted to start them last year, but with COVID, everything was kind of on hold. This is a great way just for me to sit down, hear from the people of Hinckley. What do they envision for our town? It's an open forum, face-to-face conversation, dialogue, and I'm looking forward to it. I will buy coffee and donuts. So that is Saturday, October 16th at 10 a.m. here.
that's hard to pass up.
Yeah, it is. And it's in the administration building. Last time we had to do it at Bronger's because we were still COVID and we froze. And just a quick reminder that the November 2nd regular trustee meeting has been moved to the senior room, which is the door over there by the fire station bays, because this room will be utilized for the election. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for volunteering on the comprehensive plan and the trustee tea. Let us know what you find out.
I will. Thank you so much.
All right, I've got mostly just items to bring people up to speed, the trustees included. We received, as you know, we received 4 bids for the Bethany Lane Road Improvement Project. All bids were exceeding the engineer's estimate by more than 10%. So we were required to reject all those bids, and that is what we moved to do at our special meeting. Special meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, the special meeting. And the project engineering is done. Bethany Lane won't be abandoned. We're just going to push this off to spring, put it out for bid a second time. It did not align with Medina County engineers pricing, so that was another red flag for us. So hopefully in the spring, we'll see better pricing, more in line with the Medina County engineers estimates.
I appreciate all the time you put into that.
It's a lot.
You invested a lot of time this year into that, and it will happen.
It's all for naught. It's not all for naught. We'll
Right.
be doing it next year with the trustee approval, of course, but it's there. The engineering's done. That doesn't have to change. It's just go put it out for bid a second time. The east wall of the old fire station, we have a bid requirement for October 15th, 12 noon. They have to be submitted by that time. So if there's any contractors that think they can do that project, they can go to the township website, pull the bid documents down, contact the architect if they're interested in bidding this project, and get their bid in by October 14th at noon to Town Hall in a sealed envelope
And then we will have a special meeting to open those
at
bids.
12:05 that same day.
Perfect.
And we may or may not make a decision at that time. Okay. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. here at the Town Hall and virtually, the Western Reserve Land Conservancy is coming in to discuss what they do, how the Western Reserve Land Conservancy operates. It's an educational forum for the township, brought forth by some citizens in the township that wanted to hear from them. And so we've coordinated with them. If you want to go virtual, go to our township website, go to the calendar, click on the Google Calendar, and it'll get you up. I think, Nikki, did you start this process? Were you the one that said, okay, so thank you very much. So that's moving forward. It's going to teach the people in Hinckley Township that are interested, what's the Land Conservancy do? How do we go about being a part of it?
I know both of you are aware of this. I have a meeting conflict tomorrow night with Planning Commission, so unfortunately,
Okay.
I will not be able to attend that even virtually.
I will do my
Keep us
best.
posted
to
on that.
actually.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anything big coming up in the Planning Commission?
Not for
regarding
us.
us? Okay.
I mean, not this month for us. There's
Thank
lots. There's
In
there's I
November
think
we've
8
got-
items on the agenda tomorrow, but
Not for Hinckley.
not for Hinckley.
So next item on the agenda, road work was done up on South Canyon Trail at the cul-de-sac area where we had some sinking concrete pads.
Mhm.
We used a company before that pumps foam underneath the road. Great warranties, lifetime warranty. Green concrete leveling. And so they went up and pumped the foam. We had made a motion to hire them for $10,500. They raised a lot of the pads, but they needed more foam, another 330 pounds worth. So they came back and the trustees were contacted by the service superintendent for emergency authorization to keep them moving in the project for another $3,960. So they're bringing the total to $14,460. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to amend the original motion hiring green concrete leveling for $10,500 to change to $14,460 to encompass additional work that was completed.
Do you have the date that we made the first motion?
That
It
happened
was
really
about a
quick.
month ago.
Yeah, it was 2 meetings ago. That happened very quickly.
September
I
7th.
would think it was probably the 7th.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
it was probably the infamous meeting.
And then our crew went up there yesterday and today, I think mostly yesterday, and finished off concrete work around a sewer cat base. So
So
that's
you have a
done.
motion on the table?
Yes, there
We have
is.
a motion on the table.
We do.
Second.
Seconded by Augustine. Any further discussion? All in favor?
No, other than to say that really, if you haven't seen the final product of what that looks like, boy, does it turn out nice. It really does.
It's almost immediate. It's very little interruption to traffic flow. And with the warranty, it's hard to say, let's give this a try. You know, if it sinks again, they'll come out and pump it.
If it cracks, they'll come out and
I don't know if they'll crack.
that's my concern always, but
Well-
they do a fantastic job. We've used them for other.
Well, that's the reason our guys went out and did concrete work because that concrete was shot. There was no
Yeah.
trying to salvage that. So I think if we saw concrete, we'd be replacing concrete.
Right.
That wasn't the case. These were solid pads with had lots of voids underneath it.
Just
So they were
needed more
sinking.
foam.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second.
I seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Chris. That's motion's passed. We have a change order to the cemetery wall, change order number 1. So I'd like to make a motion to approve change order number 1 from C&M to include a $1,840 cost to excavate natural stone in the area of the wall footer.
Second.
Seconded. That was a unexpected surprise for the contractor where he spent a day and a half of jackhammering or the hard stone that goes up that hill
Right.
Mhm.
out of the way so he could put the footer down. That should be done by Thursday, he said, dressing it off on Friday. On that note, about the cemetery
You
wall.
need to.
Let's finish that vote.
Thank you. Who seconded?
I did.
Augustine.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Martha. And on that note, the stone color, C&M's looking into companies that will pigment it. I'll have our service department look at some other companies to pigment so we can get some quotes, so we can get some color to it, brownish, shades of brown. Okay, and then we'll bring that back to the table. It's a very white. It would darken over time, but it would be an irregular. I'd like to see it pigmented brown, and it's a doable process. And as long as stone doesn't get broken or cracked off, it'll stay brown.
It'll look nice.
Yeah.
And you were talking about maybe stamping one of them?
Yeah, so I was hoping to have something to move on today. I did not because the monument companies weren't getting back to me until today. So right before the meeting, I met one of the monument companies up there. We're not going to make a motion today. I want some competitive bidding. But I was thinking of taking one of the stones, one of the larger stones, flattening out a face of it, and then engraving Maple Hill Cemetery circa, and I got to find out the date we founded the cemetery. Cost not to exceed about $1,000, but I don't have a firm quote yet.
Okay.
I'll bring it to the table next time and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Okay. They can do that on site, so they don't have to take a stone.
Very good.
Just for the public's notice, on the State House floor is House Bill 43, and that is to continue virtual meetings like when we were in our COVID season. What that allows us to do is have Chief Setner at home or someplace where you can't get here, or any of our trustees joining us virtually. It worked really well. Even when I was on vacation, I was able to come to these meetings because, it's 2 hours out of vacation and I can, turn off the vacation mode and go back and know what's going on in the township. So I'm hoping that House bill passes. I would ask the public to contact our state representative, Sharon Ray, and let her know your feelings about this because it would be beneficial. Plus, we have a lot of money tied up in this equipment and it's not being used to its full advantage. when we can't have these virtual
I
meetings.
absolutely agree. I have had meetings, I've hosted them from hotel rooms on vacation, from emergency rooms at hospitals. You can't believe I've sat as a trustee at one of these meetings. So if you want to support it, please contact Sharon Ray.
Thank you.
Right, right.
Would that allow for audience participation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I've already brought it up once, but just in case the other departments, I'll reach out to them. 10/26 of this month, we're shutting down our internet after business hours, probably about 5 p.m. for a few hours to put up a firewall upgrade. I've already heard from Chief Sentner. We'll see if the fire department has any issues. I don't think they will, because I've already kind of given them the heads up and nobody said anything. So that's what we're planning on. And I am through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fiscal Officer Catherwood.
Okay, fund status is currently at $6,869,116.78, of which $1,063,814.25 are in pooled investments and $5,805,302.53 are in primary checking. I'm going to read a resolution, and then Mr. Burns, if you would move to pass the resolution. But this is the annual resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. In accordance with the provisions of law, has previously adopted a tax budget for the next succeeding fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2022. And whereas the Budget Commission, of Medina County, Ohio is certified to action thereon to this board, together with an estimate by the county auditor of the rate of each tax necessary to be levied by this board, and what part thereof is without and what part within the 10 mil limitation, therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of Hinckley Township, Medina County, Ohio, that the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission in its certification be, and the same are hereby accepted, and be it further resolved that there be and is hereby levied on the tax duplicate of said township the rate of each tax necessary to be levied within and without the 10 mil limitation as followed. And I will certify those numbers. You're also authorizing my certification of this resolution to the Medina County Auditor. So you say so moved.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion?
Nope.
No.
Just to explain, these are our levies and also the general fund and road and bridge, which we do not have levies for. There is a 10 mil limitation of property tax revenue that were provided to fund these departments. And so this is basically our operating budget for our temporary appropriations. It's approximately 6.8 million, but that doesn't factor in any of our carryovers that we bring into 2022. And we're probably, I will not be surprised if we exceed 10 million.
Because of the grants.
Just because of, no, not primarily grants. I mean, that 422,000 for the American Rescue Plan obviously is significant, but it's just a whole lot of different things coming in. So you need a vote.
Roll call, please.
Kalina,
Kalina
Augustine,
says yes.
Yes.
and
Aye.
Burns.
Yes.
It's been a long night, but it's
Yes,
been a long
thank
night.
you.
No, it's been a long day. My day started.
I also need a motion
I know.
approving the purchase order listing. There were 2 blanket BCs you signed, number 82 and 83,
Yes.
2021, and 2 purchase orders, 80 and 81, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion?
Kalina,
Yes.
Augustine,
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
And then finally, I had forwarded each of the trustees and the department heads an auditor state advisory memo regarding fuel usage. I'm going to work with Sergeant Schroll when he returns on determining if our current computer system that's tied in with the 3 pumps will provide us the information we need to comply with the auditor's office. I'll be forwarding some additional motions for you guys to approve users. I may be asking the fire department to limit their users. The police department does need to have everybody use it because they all work different shifts and different times of the day. But I've asked for a listing of who in the fire department of approximately 30 members have fuel usage authorization. And I don't feel it's necessary for every single fire department member to have authorization. They're not driving all over the township like the police cars are. There's always 2 people on duty. There's lieutenants, there's a engineer, there's a lot of different people that can be designated rather than 30. We could narrow it down to 6 or 8 or something.
I don't know if we can narrow it down to 6 or 8 with the constant shifting of people every 12 hours, but we can certainly narrow
Well,
it
those
down.
vehicles don't need filled. They're 50-gallon tanks. They're not gonna be filled every day like a police car.
Right.
They're that. And you can always make exceptions in an emergency, but right now what the auditor doesn't want is just like credit cards, to have so many different people to be able to go up to a pump and get a card and be able to pull out fuel. I mean, I'm gonna have to track odometer readings, mileage, gallons, users, vehicles. It's gonna be pretty cumbersome, but
Maybe a procedural change might make it so that they're topped off during shifts when lieutenants are around and the lieutenants.
Yeah,
are
we'll
there.
work on it.
yeah,
Definitely work
I'm
on it.
just
Find out what you can
presuming
do.
Mike and I will figure it out and see what we're able to figure out, but I'm just kind of letting you guys know that I don't know if you had a chance to read the memo, but it's pretty detailed in what they're looking for. So that's
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna open the floor up for public questions and comments. Ms. Papera?
Quick question. That doesn't mean you do that. I just want, if you could reiterate that House bill number.
I think it's 40, House Bill 43.
Is it 43 or 42?
I got the text from Sharon Ray and it's 43. I'll confirm that while we're talking here. Yeah, so it's House Bill 43. Sharon Ray is our District 69 state rep. Do reach out to her. And if you know the one next door, call the district next door. The more the merrier. All right, any other questions from the audience? No? Like this time I'd like to make a motion to pay the payroll and bills for $97,840.45.
Second.
Seconded by Augustine. Any further discussions, trustees?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, at this time I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 7:39 PM.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.